Good day, traders. Hope you guys are good and welcome to my channel. I go by the name of Tumelo, and in this channel, we talk about everything Forex. If you're interested in this type of content, make sure that you smash the subscribe button. Also, turn on the notification bell so that YouTube can notify you whenever I drop a new video. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back, and I hope you enjoy today's video. Now, as suggested by the title, today we're going to be speaking on supply and demand curve. And this is one of the things that you have to have in your bag in order for you to be able to identify high probability areas. So what is a supply and demand curve? A supply and demand curve describes how expensive or how cheap a security is. So sometimes, especially if you check out my weekly market breakdowns, I could be looking at two areas of opposing supply and demand. And sometimes just because the market is at an area of, say, demand, that does not necessarily mean that you should be trading from it, right? So there's identifying areas of supply and demand based on the imbalances that you see in the market. But then there's also knowing where you are in the market, right? When a security is cheap, you don't want to be selling even more, because if it's cheap, then it means that there's going to be an increase in demand. So you're most likely going to get a buy. If it's expensive, then you're most likely going to get a sell because there isn't a lot of demand, right? That's the basic idea behind it. So let's say you have two opposing areas. The idea is, as prices go up, this thing becomes more expensive and less people are willing to buy, right? And so because there are less people buying, the ones that are interested in selling are going to be able to push prices down. So if, say, for example, you wanted to buy here, there isn't a lot of demand to back up or to back you up. So the market might reverse on you. So the best areas to buy is when price is low. Like the normal saying goes, buy low, sell high. So that's the basic idea behind it. And then as prices go down, this thing becomes cheap and more people are going to be able to afford this, right? And this goes on. And it takes me back to an example that I made on the supply and demand curve on the first video that I uploaded on support and resistance a few months ago. So say this is price and this is quantity. So with supply, the more expensive something is, the more willing producers are going to be, or the more output that producers are going to be willing to put out, right? So quantity in the market increases with the increase in price, but with demand, it works in the opposite direction, because when something becomes more expensive, people become less willing to buy that specific product, right? And this is what I just explained here. Now, you'll often hear me talk about supply and demand territories. And this is what I'm trying to explain in this video. Where's the supply and demand territory? And is there a mechanical way to identifying the supply and demand curve? So where price is expensive. So, okay. I'm gonna teach you now in a minute. So here's a few things that you need to keep note of. Number one, we use multiple or multi-time frame analysis when looking at prices in general. And the supply demand curve of any pair that you're analyzing is a time frame above. So say, for example, you're looking at the daily, you're going to derive your supply and demand curve from the weekly. And if you're looking at the weekly, your supply and demand curve will be on the monthly. So that's the first thing that you should note, that the supply and demand curve of the pair that you're looking at or the time frame that you're looking at is a time frame above. So I'll write it down. So, okay, so we're now getting into quantifying this, right? And then you're going to need two variables. Number one, you need to be able to calculate the distance between your demand level that's confirmed, that's intact, right? And demand proximal line and current price. So where the market is, that's the first variable that you're going to need. So say, for example, the distance between here to here is 200 pips. That's the first number that you need to note. The second number that you need to note is the distance between these two opposing levels. So the second thing that you need to do is work out the distance between two opposing areas. Remember, these need to be a time frame higher, right? After working out the distance between the two areas, what you need to do is put that figure above this. So let's say it's 200 pips over 400 pips. You're going to take that number and you're going to multiply it by 100 to get a percentage. And that's going to be your supply and demand curve. Now, how do you know when you are in a supply or demand territory, or buy territory or sell territory? So these are the other things that you need to note. Now, from 0% to 25, you're in your buyer's territory. I'm not sure if I'm spelling it correctly, but you heard me, buyer's territory, right? This means that if you're in this territory, even if you see sell opportunities, you're not allowed to sell, because the only opportunities that you're looking for are buy signals, right? And then from 25% to 50, right? That's a weak buy territory, or that's a weak bias. Because remember, as prices go up, right, the quantity demanded becomes less. So from 50% to 75%, that's your weak sellers, right? And then from your 75 to 100, that's your strong sellers, or sellers territory. So like I said, you don't want to be buying in a seller's territory, and you don't want to be selling in a buyer's territory. And then here in the middle, that's where you find your middle ground. Here, anything on the 50% region, anything goes. It's not high probability areas. So even if you find buying signals, even if you find selling signals, these are not high probability levels. But yes, guys, this is all that you need to understand with regards to supply and demand curve, right? So say, for example, the demand has been retested most recently and prices going up, right? Now we're in a strong bias territory. You're going to look at other factors that we talked about in previous videos. And then as soon as price gets to that point, you know that you should be buying. maybe a break of structure, you look for another block to buy from, you are buying. So yeah, these are the things that I want to talk about in this video. Like I said, it's going to be very short. Hope you enjoyed it. If you got into this point and you still haven't subscribed, please make sure that you smash the subscribe button and also like this video because it does help with the YouTube algorithm. Anyways, this is all I have for you guys. See you in another video. For now, peace.